Julius Caesar was never crowned emperor, yet his life collapsed a fragile political order and made imperial rule inevitable. How did one man move from noble obscurity to absolute power, and in doing so, end a republic that had endured for centuries? This is the story of Gaius Julius Caesar, soldier, writer, politician, and the hinge between republic and empire. Rome in the 1st century BC was a city of paradoxes, immense wealth and crushing poverty, republican ideals and practical violence, a proud constitution and steady corruption. The republic was built on shared authority, annually elected magistrates, 2 consuls sharing executive power, and a senate of elite families that managed foreign policy and finance. Those institutions worked when Rome was a regional power. But Rome had become a Mediterranean superpower, and its institutions were strained. Landowners amassed estates worked by slaves, small farmers were displaced, and veterans returned to streets where old promises lay unkept. Popular leaders placated the urban masses with grain and spectacles. Ambitious generals commanded professional legions, whose loyalty often bound to commanders more than to the state. In that pressure cooker, political conflict turned lethal, and the old rules frayed. Into this era, in 100 BC, a boy named Gaius Julius Caesar was born into the patrician Julii, an ancient family that had fallen on harder times. Caesar's early life bore the mark of Roman factionalism. When the general Sulla seized power and proscribed enemies, Caesar's family was endangered. The young man narrowly escaped execution by hiding and fleeing. These early years taught him that Roman politics demanded both daring and cunning. He vowed to recover his family's stature and to wield influence that could not be dismissed. Caesar's talents were many. He was a persuasive orator who captivated crowds in the forum, a skilled lawyer who understood Rome's legal machinery, and a careful networker who cultivated clients and allies. He was also a soldier who earned a reputation for bravery and resourcefulness in Asia Minor. But cleverness and courage alone would not have been enough. Caesar combined talent with ambition and a rare appetite for risk. The ladder to power for Rome's ambitious men was often ladled with alliances. In 60 BC, Caesar entered into a practical and secret partnership with 2 of Rome's most powerful figures, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, known as Pompey, a victorious general with the army's loyalty, and Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome. This first triumvirate was not a legal office, but an arrangement by which 3 men pooled resources: Pompey's military prestige, Crassus's money, and Caesar's political skill and popular favor. Together they manipulated elections and legislation, bypassing a Senate increasingly resistant to reform. As consul in 59 BC, Caesar pushed measures that advantaged his allies and the urban poor. He then obtained the command of Cisalpine Gaul Illyricum and later Gallia Narbonensis, territories that gave him the opportunity he craved, a stage for military glory. From 58 to 50 BC, he waged the Gallic Wars, campaigns of astonishing scale. Caesar's legions marched beyond the Rhine into Germanic territories and crossed to Britain in 2 invasions. His conquest of Gaul was methodical, ruthless, and strategically brilliant. He crushed coalitions of Gallic tribes, culminating in 52 BC at Alesia, where Vercingetorix, the greatest Gallic leader, was besieged and submitted. The siege of Alesia showcased Roman engineering: walls within walls, lines of circumvallation and contravallation, and an army drilled to execute complex maneuvers. The result was vast booty, slaves, and an army utterly loyal to its commander. Caesar shaped his reputation with more than battlefield victories. He wrote clear, architectural accounts, the commentaries, which presented military campaigns in a tone of restrained authority while subtly advertising his leadership to Rome. He was a master of image: triumphal parades, public benefactions, and spectacles that won popular affection. Yet at the same time, his ascendancy unnerved Rome's conservative elites. The deaths and miscalculations of his allies amplified tensions: Crassus seeking military glory, was crushed at Carrhae in 53 BC by Parthian forces, and Pompey drifted into the Senate's confidence, his alliance with Caesar fraying into rivalry. When the Senate, prodded by Pompey and the senatorial faction, ordered Caesar in 49 BC to lay down his command and return to Rome as a private citizen, Caesar faced a civil test. To return without his army would mean prosecution and political death. To bring his army into Italy would mean civil war. Caesar chose the latter. Crossing the Rubicon River with a legion at his back, he set in motion an irreversible sequence. He reputedly declared, "Alea iacta est," the die is cast, a phrase that captures the sense of irrevocable decision. The small river marked the line between provincial authority and the sacred soil of Italy. By crossing it, Caesar declared war on the Republic's political order. The civil war that followed was a sequence of rapid maneuvers, battles, and political theater. Pompey and many senators fled Italy. Caesar moved quickly, capturing key cities and consolidating power. The decisive confrontation came at Pharsalus in 48 BC, where Caesar's tactical acumen overcame Pompey's numerically superior forces. Pompey fled to Egypt and was murdered there, a victim of courtly intrigue. In Egypt, Caesar intervened in a dynastic dispute, installed Cleopatra VII, the brilliant and ambitious Ptolemaic queen, as a political ally, and became linked to Egyptian politics and wealth. His liaison with Cleopatra was personal and political. The relationship produced a son, Caesarion, and extended Caesar's influence into Eastern politics. Victorious and triumphant, Caesar returned to Rome. The city he entered was both awed and anxious. He accumulated honors and reforms that changed the machinery of government. He was named dictator, first for a short term, later for 10 years, and eventually in 44 BC, received the lifelong title of Dictator Perpetuo. Under his rule, reform and centralization proceeded quickly. He reformed land laws to provide settlements for veterans and to alleviate the chronic landlessness of Rome's urban poor. He introduced administrative changes to provincial governance to reduce corruption and stabilize imperial revenues. He enlarged the Senate, raising its membership and incorporating provincial elites, a move that diluted the old aristocracy's monopoly on power. He restructured the calendar, producing the Julian calendar that corrected seasonal drift and would shape timekeeping for millennia. He initiated public building projects, forums, basilicas, temples, both to beautify Rome and to provide employment. Caesar also practiced a public clemency that was political by design. He pardoned defeated enemies, incorporated former foes into his administration, and sought to present himself as a reconciler of factions. But clemency had limits. His acceptance of honors, statues and titles, and occasional performances of monarchical symbolism fed fears he intended to become king. Roman political culture retained a fierce aversion to monarchy. The memory of the expelled kings of Rome was foundational to republican identity. The sight of a single man occupying unprecedented authority, presiding over the Senate with apparent unrestrained power, unnerved many who had long believed that the Republic's checks would suffice. These anxieties birthed a conspiracy. Men who had once been Caesar's allies, or at least his fellow aristocrats, concluded that assassination was the sole remedy. The conspirators included prominent figures: Marcus Junius Brutus, a senator of aristocratic descent and a man whose family legend linked him to the old Roman liberty; Gaius Cassius Longinus, a hardened commander, and scores of others. In total, roughly 60 men who would take part in that fateful morning. Omens added theatrical irony to events. Caesar had been warned by a soothsayer to beware the Ides of March. His wife, Calpurnia, dreamed of his death and pleaded that he remain at home. Caesar went to the Senate anyway. On March 15, 44 BC, in the theater of Pompey, where the Senate was meeting, the conspirators closed around him. They struck quickly and mercilessly, each taking part in a violence they called patriotic. Ancient sources report that Caesar was stabbed 23 times. Some chroniclers recount a last exclamation addressed to Brutus. Shakespeare immortalized et tu, Brute, though its historic authenticity is doubtful. The spectacle was both intimate and public. The death of a man in the center of political life, the reddening of marble steps, the iron logic of intended rescue through murder. The assassination did not restore the Republic. Instead, it plunged Rome into further disorder. Public reaction was volatile. Some applauded, many were horrified. Mark Antony, Caesar's lieutenant and friend, seized the moment through theatrical oratory. He displayed Caesar's wounds, read his will to the people, and turned popular sentiment against the assassins. The conspirators found themselves isolated and hunted. Civil war resumed, now with new players and new stakes. From the turmoil, the struggle for succession produced the second triumvirate. Octavian, Julius Caesar's adopted son and heir, Marcus Antony, and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus. This alliance, sanctioned by law, was ruthless. The triumvirs carried out proscriptions, lists of enemies condemned and often executed, consolidating power through blood and confiscation. Brutus and Cassius fled east and were defeated at Philippi in 42 BC. Antony's subsequent entanglement with Cleopatra would bring new drama, and eventually his defeat by Octavian at Actium in 31 BC. Octavian emerged not as a royal usurper, but as a cautious architect of a new order. In 27 BC, he accepted the title Augustus and fashioned the Principate, a system where republican forms remained, but executive power was concentrated in one man. Thus, the Roman Empire, as a stable political reality, was born. How should we judge Julius Caesar? He was not the first emperor. That title belongs to Augustus. But he was the essential precursor. Caesar rewrote the rules of Roman politics. By concentrating military loyalty, centralizing authority, and demonstrating that republican checks could be overcome, he made empire possible. He was a gifted reformer. The Julian calendar, municipal reforms, citizenship extensions, and infrastructure projects left lasting marks. He was a brilliant general whose conquests extended Rome's horizons. He was also an opportunist whose thirst for power accelerated the Republic's collapse. Caesar's life offers a study in contradictions. He showed generosity and clemency, yet tolerated violence. He modernized Roman administration while simultaneously upending political norms. He advanced laws for the public good, yet undermined the very civic culture that legitimized law. His story is also a warning. When institutions are stressed by inequality, when military power becomes personal, and when political actors choose force over compromise, republics can give way to concentrated rule. 2,000 years later, the questions remain resonant. How much authority can a society safely vest in one person, and what does it cost when that threshold is crossed? Julius Caesar was brilliant, ruthless, and humanly flawed. He changed the course of Rome and created the conditions for an empire that would shape the ancient world for centuries. He was not by title the first emperor, but without him, there might never have been an emperor at all. His life is a reminder that singular ambition can remake history, and that the institutions we rely on require constant care if liberty is to endure.